Today we're going to be talking about doing things the right way, doing things the easy way, and which one of those two is the best. But before I get into today's topic, I want to share with you guys I'm going to be in Houston, Texas on July 29th and 30th of this year. I'm going to be part of a Food Truck Owners Expo, and I'll be giving classes, both one on Monday, one on Tuesday, on two different topics. On Monday, we're talking about making your menu profitable, and then on Tuesday, we're talking about what you should do in the off-season so that people don't forget about your business. After those classes on both Monday and Tuesday, I'll be out on the main floor holding what they're calling campfire sessions, where people can come and talk to me and ask any kind of question they have about the food truck industry, or just shoot the breeze with me. In any case, you want to be there July 29th and 30th of this year, and you can go to ftoexpo.com. You can go ahead and purchase your tickets, and don't forget to put in the code FTTG15 to get a 15% discount. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Want to know the secret to boosting sales and growing a crowd of loyal customers? It's marketing. Learn how to create a powerful marketing plan with the Food Truck Marketing Guide from Table Needs. Get your copy today. The link is in the description below. Now, many of you guys know that I started work in the food truck industry in 1981, and before that I was in restaurants. The first company I worked for was called Rax Restaurants, and I stayed with them until the late 80s. Actually, about as late in the 80s as you could get. I gave my 2-week notice on 12/26 of 1989. But in any case, I worked in Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia, and then eventually they moved me to Florida. And I got the opportunity to work with one restaurant in Ocala, Florida. It was on State Route 200, and we had a number of employees there that took an interest in what I did on my off days. And that, again, being running a hot dog cart or a food trailer. Every once in a while, I would need some help, and I would ask the folks that work there if they would want to help me. And, of course, they would get to earn a little bit of extra money to make my life a lot easier if I had some help from time to time, especially when I did some of the caterings that we used to do. So I had 2 people in particular that would help me most frequently. One was named Mary Sue. She was an older lady. She was in her 30s, and she was a little bit older than I was at the time. And then I had a very young lady helping me. Her name was Liz, and she was just turned 18. Both of them had worked for me at Rax. They were good employees. Liz was a little bit more friendly and outgoing than Mary Sue was, but Mary Sue was extremely efficient in running the drive-thru. And when you find somebody that's efficient, you hang on to them. So she earned her keep working the drive-thru, while Liz actually did everything. She did front, she did backline, as we called it, and that's where we made the sandwiches, as well as she would take care of the drive-thru. So she was an all-around very good employee. So the 2 of them, again, would help me from time to time on the hot dog cart or on a food trailer that I had. And they had a curiosity about the business. They both wanted to get into their own business, but they had 2 real differences in their personality. Liz wanted to do everything the right way. That was something that she was raised to do. She always wanted to know the details on everything, and then she would ask, is this the best way? Is this the right way? Am I going to get in trouble if I do it this way? But once you told her, yes, that's the right way, and you're not going to get in trouble, she did it exactly the same way over and over and over. She was very, very good at what she did. You contrast that with Mary Sue, who all of her life, as near as I could tell, jumped from job to job. At one point, she had told me she had worked for Rax a little over 2 years, and that was the longest that she'd ever stayed at one job. She also worked in the evening and kept her daytimes open for her money-making schemes, is what they amounted to. Every couple of months, she would have some different thing that she wanted to share with me that was the next greatest thing she was going to make money, and wanted to help me make money too. And of course, it would be something that I would look at and go, no, that's too much like network marketing. I have no desire to do any of that. Or it would be investment in some nonsense. She took me off to one meeting with her one time that was a real estate investment that was very much a pyramid scheme, but she was buying into every bit of it. I'm like, no, you don't want to do that. So she ended up investing in it. Of course, I had nothing to do with it, and she lost about $500 on that little scheme. But in any case, it came down to she was worried about money, and she wanted to know if I would be upset if she started her own hot dog business. And I said, not a problem. There's plenty to go around. Plus, I had a decent enough reputation and enough responsibility at Rax that I didn't always have enough free time to work. So she could have worked there in Ocala, and I would have never known. So she asked for advice. And I gave her all the best advice I could give at that point in my life. I'd only been doing the hot dog and the hot dog trailer about 7 years or so at that point, maybe 8. And she wanted to know everything. So I applauded her for wanting to know everything, because that was important, because she was going to run the business, not only just be somebody assembling hot dogs or taking cash. So she needed to know the details. And then we got into that big discussion about, what about equipment? Where should I find it? And I told her where I found mine. Mine was a used hot dog cart that somebody had in New York City. Had the big bicycle wheels, which meant that I couldn't tow it behind a car. Had to put it on a trailer, and I could wheel it off the trailer and then move it wherever I wanted to. It was a scaled down version of what most people work with today, meaning that I couldn't sell a whole lot of different things on this hot dog cart. Basically, it was hot dogs. I could do a chili, and that was pretty much it, because you had enough room for 3 pans, 3 1/3 size pans. One had hot dogs, one had buns in it, and then one we had the chili in it. And then we had an area where we kept some cold condiments, so we could do onions and cheese and that kind of thing. And that was it. So she started asking me, what if I get a grill? And at that time, the rules would have let her gotten a grill if she wanted to. And I said, well, yeah, you can get that, but you're not going to find one that's small enough that's going to do you any good. And she said, well, what about this? And she wanted to do Philly cheesesteaks. And then she wanted to add on other things. And I'm like, you can't do all that from a hot dog cart. It's not going to be sanitary. You're not going to be able to keep up. You're not going to have the space to hold the cold equipment or hold the cold foods and be able to cook them. And she said, well, I can get a trailer. I said, yes, you can. And she eventually shopped around and found a trailer, except it wasn't a food trailer. It was a cargo trailer. It hadn't even been converted yet. So essentially what she bought, she spent about $1,000 on a small cargo trailer that was enclosed. It had a small door, didn't even have a big door on it. So the first thing I asked her when she was showing it to me, she pulled it into the parking lot there at Racks on State Route 200, and she was bragging about, look at this. Look how awesome this is. We will turn it into a food truck. And I'm like, you can turn it into a food truck, but that's going to be a whole bunch of work. She said, but I can do it. I said, okay, I have no doubt you can. So she set off to start remodeling that cargo trailer into her own little food trailer. Liz got excited when she saw the trailer because Mary Sue had to show it to both of us. So Liz was like, well, I can get one too. I said, well, yeah, you can. But you want to make sure you do it right, because Mary Sue's going to spend a whole bunch of money to make that thing sanitary and food service worthy. And she probably would have been better off just waiting and have somebody build one for her, or wait to find someone that was selling a used one that was in good shape. So Liz said, I'm going to start saving my money right now. Now, she was the kind of person that when she said something, she did it. So I knew if she was going to start setting money aside to save for her food truck, she would do it. But I also knew that meant she probably was not going to go to college. And I think she was looking for a reason to not to have to go to college, because she had opportunities once she graduated to go, and she chose not to. I want to take a year off. I'm like, well, every time somebody's told me they take a year off, they never go back. So she sat and worked out a plan, and she showed it to me. She wrote it out on a piece of paper of how much money she was going to be able to set aside and what she would do with that money. And she had a little plan laid out. Then she started shopping around. She took her boyfriend, and they went to Leesburg and Gainesville, and they even went to Orlando and Tampa looking for the right food truck. Now, back in those days, there weren't a whole lot around. And the ones that were around basically were carnival units that were way expensive. Even the used ones were very, very expensive. So she eventually came to the conclusion she was going to have to build one herself. Her boyfriend was in construction, so he's like, yeah, I can help you do it. So they found a similar project trailer to what Mary Sue had, except theirs was a little bit different. If you're familiar with Ocala, Florida, you know that it is considered to be the Lexington horse capital of the South. So Lexington, Kentucky is very famous for having lots of horse farms all surrounding it. And Ocala has a very similar landscape. You could, if you're driving, almost think you were in Lexington. As you drive down 75, you might think, well, this looks just like Lexington, except there's no stone fences like there are in Lexington and the surrounding area, and there's definitely no palm trees in Lexington. But the landscape and the feel kind of feels like Lexington, Kentucky. Now, having said that, that means there's a whole bunch of horse farms all around Ocala, and that means there's a whole bunch of horse trailers. So Liz found a very cheap horse trailer. It was a 2-horse trailer, fairly decent size, and it was one of those that the gentleman farmer, as he was, kept it in immaculate condition. I would bet there was never a horse in it. He reminded me of one of those people that had way more money than sense and was going to get into raising horses and bought all the accoutrement for taking care of horses, but then never actually bought a horse. So he sold this trailer for a very, very low amount. Liz bought it, and her and her boyfriend set out to start to fix it up and turn it into a food trailer. And little by little they did. Each month or so she would show me their progress, and she would ask me about equipment once they got all the walls and the sink package in. What equipment should we get? And I would tell her, you want to buy commercial. I recommended a couple of generators, showed them how to do the propane. So this is the equipment that you want to buy. It's not a hard conversion to go from natural gas to propane. And if you shop around, you can get a lot of this equipment for pennies on the dollar because restaurants go out of business all the time, or they remodel all the time. Case in point being Rax Restaurants. At one point we did breakfast, and then they dropped breakfast. All that breakfast equipment they got rid of. Company's still in operation, but they sold many thousands of pieces of breakfast equipment that they were no longer using. The same with burgers. When we started burgers, we brought in griddles and all this kind of stuff to cook burgers, and then they dropped burgers after a couple of years, so now all that equipment ended up on the market at auction. So I told them, you don't have to wait on a restaurant to close. You'll find equipment. You just got to look around for it. Being near Orlando and being near Tampa, always equipment available for sale. So all while Liz is building her trailer, Mary Sue's working on hers. And there is a stark difference. Mary Sue's is not progressing well. I noticed that she had a mismatch of equipment in there, and every bit of it was pretty much home use equipment. And we had this conversation. I told her, you got to buy commercial because it's not going to work well in a food trailer, especially because it's going to be in movement all the time. Food trailer is going to get hot. We live in Florida. It's going to get downright hot. The refrigeration is not going to keep up. You get the least little bit busy and you're opening that door, closing that door, you're evacuating the cold air that's in it every few seconds. It's not going to keep up. The griddle that she bought was a home griddle. It was a very expensive home griddle, but a home griddle nonetheless. She wanted it to cook her Philly cheesesteaks on, and I told her this is not going to work. It's going to draw too much power, so you're going to have a problem with your generator. And I also pointed out that it's going to have hot and cold spots. The easiest way to tell a hot and cold spot is to turn the thing on, set it to whatever the temperature is, and I recommend you do 350. And then whip up some pancake batter. Put the pancake batter in different spots, just like you were getting ready to cook it. Now, what you're going to see in a home use griddle is there'll be spots where the pancakes are near perfect and then spots where they're blonde. They have no caramelization at all because there's hot and cold spots on those. But she says, no, it'll work. It'll be fine. So I would help her from time to time get the thing built, and we would have some heated discussions, and I would tell her time and time again, this is not going to work. You're going to be low volume. You're not going to be able to handle it. It's just not going to work. No, it will. You'll see. You'll be so impressed. I had to give her points for being tenacious, but I knew it was not going to work out. Liz eventually got hers open well ahead of Mary Sue, and she did a couple of events, and then she asked me if I'd come help her do this one big catering that she got. One of the horse farms. They were having some big auction there, and she wanted me to help. So I told her sure, so I went and helped. Her equipment performed quite nicely. She had different brands of commercial equipment. She had a True refrigerator. She had a beverage air prep station. She had a Vulcan grill, and it's one of those big, heavy ones. But the thing worked, and it worked well. And that was about all the equipment that she had in that little 2-stall horse trailer. But we put out a bunch of burgers, a bunch of hot dogs. Crazy amounts, actually. And she was so impressed that it worked the way she envisioned, the way she planned. And I was impressed too, because I was scared to death to go to her place while we were busy and see what would happen. I don't like being involved in things that don't run well, and hers ran well. She did the register, she had her boyfriend do all the cooking, and I did the assembly and the expediting. It was like clockwork. It could have just been another Rax Restaurants. We got the food out, all the customers were happy. It was a fun day. Now, I'm going to jump ahead 5 years. I moved away to St. Thomas, but I stayed in touch with my friends there in Ocala. I had an opportunity to fly back and visit them all. I took a vacation from St. Thomas and flew to Central Florida and met up and had dinner with Liz and found out that she now has 2 food trucks. I was so impressed. I was just the proud papa. Now we got 2 food trucks. It's awesome. Fast forward another 5 years. So now we're into the early 2000s. She has a 3rd food truck, and she doesn't work on them anymore. Her and her boyfriend moved to Pennsylvania, and they took their little food truck empire with them. If you're going to do anything, it's got to have a plan, and then you got to listen to people that have done this before you. And Liz did. She listened to me. And I only been doing it a few years longer than she had. But now she's got multiple food trucks. She's very well off. She lives in Pennsylvania, and she's happy as she can possibly be. So now let's talk about Mary Sue. Mary Sue got open, and she immediately got a bad reputation for very, very bad service. She came into Rax one night. She was wore out. Man, I've been working all day. Well, how'd it go? Oh, Bill, you wouldn't believe it. We were so busy. I said, well, okay. How many people did you wait on? Well, we had a dozen. I said, a dozen's not busy. She said, yeah, but they all came at once. My grill wouldn't keep up. It kept kicking off. I said, you sure it was kicking off or it just didn't keep up? Because there's a difference. Kicking off means the propane's got an issue. Not keeping up means you bought a cheap grill. So she lamented having bought the cheap grill. She continued to work her home-built trailer for another 6-7 months. She got all the way out of summer. She called me up and said, would you like to buy this from me? And I said, no, because it doesn't have any value to me. It's a cargo trailer that you converted. It's all hand done. There's no value. She said, what about the equipment? And I said, I can buy all that equipment brand new at Zayre's because it's home equipment. It's not going to keep up. It's not impressive. I would not spend the money on that. I said, the only thing that you have on that truck that has any value to me is the actual trailer itself, and I don't need a cargo trailer. Your sink package is pans that have holes drilled in them and then cheap plumbing attached to them. She bought half-size pans, drilled holes in them, and turned it into a sink set. Had a home faucet, barely could reach all of the pans, so it leaked water. It was cobbled together. It was a mess. And I had to be the one to break that to her, that there's no value there. You might be able to get $2,000 out of it. Maybe. And she had about $5,000 in it. See, it all comes down to doing things the right way. Yes, a Blackstone grill will cook your food, but it also won't keep up. You get the least little bit pressed, and it won't keep up. It will develop hot and cold spots. It will not keep up. I cannot stress that enough. When someone says, I've been using one for 5 years, what's your volume, buddy? And then they'll tell me, and it'll be, okay, you're a hobbyist. Of course it's going to keep up. You're not busy. Now, I want you to think about, you have McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's. All these places use the exact same equipment as a Blackstone. It's a flat top. Now, do you think for 1 second that all these big corporations like spending a bunch of money on the Vulcans and the other brands, the Blodgetts and all the other expensive griddles, when they could just go down to Walmart and buy and then convert that propane to natural gas? Do you think they like spending that extra money? No, they like having a piece of equipment that'll actually keep up with their sales volume. That's what it comes down to. When you buy home equipment thinking that you're saving a little bit of money till I can make more money later to buy something good, don't even bother. Because what you bought was a limiter. Blackstone can only cook so many burgers an hour. That's it. When you buy home equipment, you have bought a limiter. You cannot grow. So using it to, I'm going to grow, make more money. No, you won't. Because you've already got bad habits. You got the habits that Mary Sue had. Let's jump from get rich quick scheme to get rich quick scheme. If you're going to stay in business, if you're going to have a business, invest in the thing. Make a plan. And part of that plan is, I'm going to buy good equipment. And then I'm going to place that equipment in such a manner that it makes sense for the workflow. You've got to plan, and you've got to invest. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow, because you know I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.